I will never get tired of Vox. Has Been Hotel Season 2 really made him that guy. I've said this a couple times before and I'm sure many would agree, Vox felt more like a main character than Charlie this season, growing more powerful each episode where he essentially reached his peak. Charlie herself even calling Vox the strongest sinner in hell. Sure, it was kind of through force because of Alistair's deal, but Alistair was still the only one worthy of standing up to Vox by that point. In terms of sinners, he really was the closest to a god the Helliverse has seen. At this point, having some of the most action scenes we've seen in Has Been besides Alistair too. So let's get into how strong the media overlord really is. Vox was introduced as someone whose powers seem to be directly impacted by how other sinners perceive him in the public eye, on top of how well his products sell in the market. As in, even ones he doesn't have direct soul contracts with still seem to grant him extra power. Due to all the electric energy coursing around his body, the more sinners began to consume his products, like the Vox Tech drone or watching shows produced by Vox Tech. So in simplest terms, the more he's loved, the more powerful he can become. A very Ember McLean coded, isn't he? In the past, he fought Alistair, who had already become an incredibly powerful overlord in hell, a fight that resulted in a fallout due to Alistair completely shitting on Vox's idea to partner up and the fact that he even considered them friends. While this fight was never shown, Alistair said he had to put Vox in his place, implying he lost. This specific fight had weird implications to it at one point though, because Val said in season 1 Vox was pissed because Alistair almost beat him.
You still pissed he almost beat you that time?
Fuck you!
Just saying.
Which to me implied Vox actually won that. But because of Alistair's statements being more recent on top of Vox's reactions to these statements, it's safe to say Vox lost there despite completely crashing out after the fact. Further adding to why it's hard for him to get too strong when he's building power on his own. It's a double-edged sword, but a very unique power design still in my opinion. As Vox is someone who's so desperate for attention, power, and entertainment, it makes sense how his powers would be somewhat tied to the approval of others. Just like with regular TV products or programs, if the demand from the people isn't there, the networks will not bat an eye at canceling or discontinuing them. Unrelated, but hashtag bring back Infinity Train. Even before partnering with Velvet and Valentino, he still did a good job at growing his power as an overlord solo for a bit, to the point where Alistair even respected him before Vox offered the partnership. Fast forward to present day, and Vox has sizable control over the Pride Rings media industry, using his new and improved flat-screen TV head to literally hypnotize people into trusting his business practices, taking the term mindless consumer to a whole new level. These hypnotic powers aren't completely unstoppable though, as we've seen Valentino was unfazed by it when Vox tried to act all alpha male towards him for Papa Alistair's approval points. Alistair and Charlie seem to be unfazed whenever he's done it around them. The same cannot be said for Angel Dust though, who has been shown to be stronger than the average sinner, will still succumb to Vox's hypnosis if cornered. What he did to Angel in specific seemed to have long-term effects as well that we didn't really see with other sinners, as even when Angel wasn't in the same vicinity as Vox, the passive effects of the spell would still be active where Angel would send Vox damning secrets about the hotel. This intel was being leaked for what sounded like months before Vox revealed he was controlling Angel since the events of season 1's 4th episode. Easily the most terrifying aspect about that power. But that power was shown to be on another level compared to other forms of hypnosis, because Sir Pentious tried to pull his own version of it on Angel before, and it had no effect on him. Vox was always implied to be the strongest of the V's even before his rise in power throughout season 2. Valentino was someone who was fighting on close to equal footing against both Husk and Cherry, the former of whom used to be an overlord as well. For someone as bloodthirsty and demonic as Val is, I think it's pretty telling how he's willing to submit to Vox's will over and over like that. Granted, part of this submission could be in part to Val's romantic feelings towards Vox, but the respective strength, I imagine, plays a factor too. This was the same guy who ripped Sinner's limb from limb in a fit of rage simply because Angel wasn't returning his calls. Vox's control over electronic devices helps boost his strength a lot as well, as because of how his body works, he can directly connect to those devices to either increase his field of vision or spy on others from a distance to learn more information about them. These devices can be controlled extremely far away from the comfort of his evil lair, although this doesn't seem to be that useful for one-on-one fights. Also, his debut episode showed that if he gets angry enough, it can be a detriment to his powers rather than a boost. Because after Alistair won the song battle, Vox's influence went completely offline, causing a Pentagram City blackout followed by him throwing a hissy fit. It didn't really hit me until now how even his innate demon powers still have a reliance on inorganic objects working for him properly, screwing him over if they malfunction. That's pretty damn funny. The wires he sends out of his body, on the other hand, are much more useful. He didn't really start using these until season 2 though. Several of these wires can be controlled at once, giving him some Doc Ock-like abilities, increasing the range of electric shocks while also being quite durable, as Angel Dust was unable to break free of them while another was tied to Alistair's body and used to slam him into a concrete wall, with the wire still intact by the end of that interaction. In Season 2's finale, he used one to completely subdue Emily as well. The quality of this feat is sort of up to personal interpretation by the viewer, to be honest, as Emily is one of the weirder heaven angels to scale in terms of power, I guess. Because like Charlie, she's extremely Disney princess coded and a pacifist in nature, but at the same time, she's a seraphim angel with about the same authority level as Sarah. Very close to God themselves for this version of heaven's hierarchy. So for her to be subdued by Vox like that before her wing was blown off by the Might of Lilith weapon ranges from insanely impressive to just okay. I'm personally in the just okay camp for now until we see more from Emily in future seasons. Physical strength wise, Vox is much stronger than he looks with that skinny build of his. Season 2 showed he was strong enough to kick a grand piano off a high platform. The average weight of that instrument can range anywhere between 500 to 1,200 pounds, by the way. He did something similar to this in his Brighter song when he kicked the anchor woman off screen, so all the eyes could be on him. At the very least, he's got very strong legs. As for arms, the main thing I can think of is when he moved the Might of Lilith's weapon trajectory with his bare hands, a weapon directly powered by Lucifer himself that even Vaggie was struggling to disarm until Carmilla stepped in to help. Vox's durability and stamina is quite insane too, as he was completely unfazed by getting slammed into buildings with enough force to leave craters on the side, as well as giant piles of highway debris falling on top of him during his second fight with Alistair. Throughout the entire Season 2 climax, Vox refused to go down without swinging, only stopping when Valentino literally ripped the head off his body. Yet that still wasn't enough to kill him or even knock him unconscious. The concept of sinners dying at the hands of other sinners has always felt a bit inconsistent, as on one hand, a vid stream from about 6 years ago stated sinners can't really die by normal means outside angelic weapon murders.
They can do yeah, like the way like it works is that like you can get really like hurt and injured and like in pain, in great amounts of pain, but you can't actually like die from like things except for angel stuff.
Yet Vox's fight against Alistair are rooted in the mindset of Vox wanting to wipe Alistair off the face of existence permanently, disregarding his angelic canon. So it's just interesting to me how he was still pretty high functioning in the mind after Val beheaded him with his bare hands, when we've seen other no-name sinners go completely limp from much less severe injuries. Vox's striking strength mostly comes from his electrokinesis, which obviously electrocutes anyone he directly touches, but the strikes of lightning he leaves in his path are incredibly powerful, not only completely disintegrating the bodies of lower tier sinners, although this specific guy had a cactus body and lightning is a lot more effective against plant life, but leaving pretty deep craters and paved roads. It can be hard to see these strikes coming as well since Vox becomes electricity itself when moving around like that. In real life, lightning has been said to break through stone depending on the type, usually ones with low mechanical resistance, while higher resistance ones like granite can't really be broken. However, Vox's actual body weight combining with the lightning, I imagine, helps impact the force, since lightning bolts don't really weigh anything in the traditional sense of pounds or kilos. So when combining his body weight with the joules of a lightning strike being anywhere between 1 to 5 billion joules on average, it makes a bit more sense as to how these massive craters are left behind whenever Vox is using them. His full demon form is nothing but raw power, throwing Alistair all around the pentagram like a ragdoll for a bit before calling Shockwave for help, with enough force behind these throws to destroy multiple buildings, pieces of highway, and Alistair bleeding a bit from his nose. The range at which he emits electricity looked like it got longer as well. Before, he mostly relied on direct contact or a wire to electrocute someone, but here it traveled across a stretch of road that looked to be several hundred feet long. Yet Alistair didn't have a problem avoiding this, thanks to his ability to travel through shadows. It's one of those things where physically, Vox definitely felt superior in this fight, however, Alistair was the better fighter, therefore still got the upper hand at points despite still being somewhat nerfed, as Rosie didn't fix his staff until after Vox was defeated. Even when it comes to fighting, Vox's biggest weakness is still his insecurity and overly emotional nature. He doesn't think straight whenever Alistair is involved. Despite being at the most powerful he's ever been, his words by the way, nerfed Alistair still gave him a run for his money. Though to knock Alistair down a peg because I think it's funny, he still technically wasn't the one to take out Vox in the end, so it'd be like that sometimes. If Vox was more of a level-headed fighter, there's a good chance he wins that. But for the sake of the story, it's better that they didn't take that route, as it would have hindered his character as a whole for me. Some things are more important than scaling, believe it or not. Well, I guess most things are, huh? So if I were to give an overall rating from everything we've seen from him so far, he'd be anywhere between multi-city block level to small town level in his full full demon form, assuming he can maintain that form for long enough, which is about the same area I put Alistair when I talked about how a fight between he and Stolas would go down during Season 1 times. Although if we're factoring in the full powers of both characters here, no hindrances, Al still likely edges Vox out by a bit. I imagine Vox's power level won't get any more upgrades from here on out either, considering he's basically at rock bottom right now. Viv did say in a post-Season 2 interview Vox isn't completely wiped from the story yet, which is great for me. However, I just don't see a reality where his future roles in the show will be granting him even more power than the levels he's reached in Season 2. The show will likely want to focus on other villains instead. Also, yes, Steven Universe absolutely kicks this guy's ass. How do you guys feel about Vox's strength? Do you agree or disagree with my assessment of him, and if so, why? I'd love to know your thoughts. Like, subscribe, all that good jazz, but for now, I will see you guys next time. Peace out, take care, bye-bye.